Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, where cash and vinyasa flows meet. This is the first podcast that talks about how your money stories, through looking at your ancestral lens, can help activate your financial wellness plan. And without further ado, your host, Eugenie George. Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast. This is your host, Eugenie George. So happy to be here. Happy New Year. It's been a while. I have been working on some stuff, applying for jobs, the typical thing, and just relaxing. I just read this book called 24/6 by Tiffany Shlain, and it talks about unplugging and unwinding. So this was actually the first holiday season that I unplugged and unwind. So that was really nice to not have the wheels churning, due dates and tasks. And I think that having 1 week off from not doing any work was super beneficial. The book 24/6 is not only great, but it also helps you understand how you can unplug 1 day of a week, have kind of like a technology Sabbath or Shabbat. So that was really helpful. Another thing that I've been diving into is the best of with Pitchfork and movies and Variety. I love the year in reflections of what was good for the year, what was bad, what do we need to throw out. So I listened to a huge number of albums from Pitchfork's best 2019. I will say that my favorite is Denzel Curry's Zoo, which I think is amazing. And Big Thief also had two really good albums, and that's like more of a folksy style. And both of those albums are really good. Now, if you're really into Lana Del Rey, which a lot of people are, I call that more of my PMS music. I only listen to it then, so I queued it for when that happens because I use the Clue app. This is not even a plug, but I love the Clue app because it lets me know when I'm going a little crazy. Anyways, let's dive into today's topic. Today we're going to talk about a no BS holistic guide to financial wellness. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of financial wellness. If you need help figuring out how your life fits into your money habits, your health, wealth, relationships, careers, how it all fits in, this is a brief, that's not even a joke, it's not even a brief, a long overview of the topic. It's also a part of the Foundations of Financial Wealth series and Financial Wellness series. So if you're interested in learning about the holistic guide on the Money and Flow podcast, I can tell you a couple of episodes and I'll make sure I put them in the show notes. 1, money mindset, not with the math. 2, what is a financial wellness plan? 3, setting the year with intention, the 6-week financial wellness plan, and 4, navigating our net worth. So all of those are part of the financial wellness series. So let's dive in. Fun fact. New Year's resolutions used to freak me out. Anytime someone would ask me about what I would do differently this year, I would get annoyed, roll my eyes, and say I haven't thought about it much. It was because secretly I was trying to craft the perfect New Year's resolution. You see, back then I was a secret perfectionist, borderline masochist, lose 10 pounds, run a half marathon. All the typical resolutions. I would try to set a new goal and I would immediately get sidetracked, only to find my goal disappear because I didn't have enough time. Or the universe was telling me that I need to put my efforts in another goal. I would eventually feel guilty that I didn't follow through with a goal. And you can also cue the explicit content. As positive as I come off across, I have a lot of dirty thoughts in my head, and that was one of them. Now, I know I'm not alone. In the most recent years, people have recognized that New Year's resolutions don't work because past the second month, people forget the real motivation behind their goals. Also, it takes 66 days to form a long-lasting habit. Thanks to James Clear for that. This is why People are always stitching their resolutions and setting up vision boards these days. Now, there's this new camp called Setting the Year with Intention, or intention parties. And in the past 5 years or so, the self-help community has created an alternative to New Year's Eve resolutions with intention parties. Coaches, yogis, and tribe builders set up events where people would create vision boards and set up intentions. As an avid Kool-Aid drinker, such as myself, I began attending these parties, cutting out magazines like a teenager and posting them on my wall. I would set the year with intention, saying that this year is going to be the year of self-love. Write a check to myself like Jim Carrey and say, by this date, I'm going to make $100,000. Yes, I was secretly this person. I never told people that I did this, but I was that person. Only to find myself overworking and overeating cookies, Chips Ahoy to be exact, out of stress. So how's that for self-love? Then I would eventually get annoyed with my vision board, start talking trash, and setting the year with intention just wasn't coming true. When I asked my friends how could they measure their intentions, many of my friends said, you can't measure intention. It's a gut feeling. Perplexed and slightly annoyed, I threw out my vision board because intention without measurable results, they don't work out that well. This past year, I've tried to figure out what is the most successful way to weave in both ideas, New Year's resolutions and intentions, but also to be content. I think that's really the big thing, is to be content, because of course we want to set goals, but where are we? Are we present? Are we in our bodies? All that good stuff. So by creating a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly rituals, I was able to see how one small task or one small idea, like a goal or setting the intention to complete the goal, was helping me execute a lot of tasks or a lot of my vision in a very short period of time. The idea is simple, but the execution requires weekly, continuous self-reflection. And I like to call it financial wellness dates. We'll actually dive into that later. From this experience, I've learned to embrace New Year's resolutions and intentional year parties. I had to tie my thoughts, habits, and goals surrounding my mental health and money story. I had to get over my chip. My mental health journey. Prior to 2019, I had embarked on a huge mental health shift. You see, 2016 was my Renaissance year. I have a weird theory, but I think once every 5 years we have Renaissance years. I quit my job, traveled the world, and started a business. Oh, and did I say I also fell in love, which is crazy because it was a dry spell for a very long time. Plus, I had taken a year of celibacy and a year off of dating. And I didn't tell anyone that one because I knew that one was going to end. Anyways, if I told someone. All of these experiences, I wouldn't change for the world. But when one starts all new things in 1 year, the beginning of the year typically is rosy. But as the year heated up, so did my perfectionist archetype. It began to creep up. I started to perfect my everything, and I stopped looking at my money. I had money saved to quit my job because I was frugal. And like some entrepreneurs, I was putting a lot of hours into my business and not truly paying attention to sales. I invested a lot of money into coaches, social media managers, conferences. All of these were great, but I was spending more time getting my mindset right, but not getting my numbers clear. During this time, I was investing with myself. I reconnected with an old friend from middle school, and we'll call her Michelle. Michelle was a successful business owner in California. It was nice to reconnect with her because, unlike me, Michelle was a rebel. Even when we were kids, I can remember Michelle telling off our sixth grade social media and social studies teacher just what she thought about the Mesopotamian period. So it was no surprise that when Michelle would ditch college altogether, she started a business, worked with Richard Branson, Zappos, and other brands. She also would donate large proceeds to help girls attend school in developing countries. For a year, we would chat and laugh about working too much, not making that much money. Yes, Michelle was a badass entrepreneur, but she did not vibe with making money. In September, she texted me and she said that she was headed to Philly in December and she wanted to meet up with me. So I was really excited. November passed. I texted her when she was headed out here. She said she broke up with her boyfriend and she'll get back to me. I texted her at the end of December. No response. I did see a picture on Instagram, however, on December 31st, 2016, and it showed her drinking and doing yoga. On her Instagram post, Michelle said that 2017 was going to be the best year ever. 3 days later, a friend found her dead in the garage. I didn't know she was battling with mental illness or her family's ancestral trauma. It hit me pretty hard because Michelle was the second death in 2016 and 2017, so I had to take it in. My former student was killed by her boyfriend in November, and I just didn't process it. January 2017, I began that grieving process, and it hit hard. To make matters worse, I lost the contract that was paying my bills. My body began to shut down, and I stopped talking to a lot of people. If we flash forward to April 2017, I can remember like it was yesterday. I just come back from pitching a business idea to a potential client only to find a bolted door. I was evicted from my apartment. I walked slowly to my car, sobbing in tears, and I called my family to tell them what happened. As I was about to open the door and tell my family how I failed them, some girl hit my car while I was in park. I thought to myself, I guess that's what it means to hit rock bottom. Thousands of miles away from my family, embarrassed that I was someone who appeared to hit the black privilege lottery. I'd gone to a good college. I made more money than my parents did when they were in their 20s. And everything appeared to look good on paper. But I never asked for help. I was told that no one will help you, but you trust God. This makes sense to the advice that I was given. My family's from Louisiana. Many of my relatives were born before the Civil Rights Movement, and I am an only child, so I've been around a lot of older people. As a small business owner, I began the process of overworking. I would take any job. I was working from 80 hours a week and making no money. I started taking these money mindset entrepreneur classes, which cost more than I was used to spending. They were telling me to spend over my limit. There were lots of conversations about what you value, and if you value yourself, you would charge more. Yes, I believe in the money method, but I also wasn't producing great work. Manifest money. All of that mindset stuff is great, but there was no real practical advice on how to manage money, nor did it explain how money could be used to help build your own community. But I took the advice and I followed it to a T, only to find myself unable to budget my lifestyle. You see, when you're a solo business owner, if you don't figure out how to outsource your skills, you are doing it all. You are going to lose time and money, and you might even lose some friends. You're also going to create your own mini founder syndrome. Throughout a lot of conversations that I had, I realized that the advice that I was listening to came from entrepreneurs that were overspenders themselves. In later years, I read The Millionaire Next Door. From reading this book, I recognized that many of the entrepreneurs that I was interacting with, either came from families that had money, was trying to keep up with the Kardashians or the Carters, or they were manifesting their money. This is not to bash folks with immediate monetary money, but throughout this entire experience, I had lost my true authentic self. I lost my why. I had to come to terms that although I thought my confidence was positive, it was also false around my habits, my execution, and my follow-up was poor. I also had to forgive myself for mastering the art of self deprecation. I had to look at how my habits were formed and also how my all of my ideas were based around my money story. I honestly thought I had to struggle to get broke to endure mental toughness to run a business. That was a load of crap. Prior to starting a business, I was the frugal one. I had managed to save most of my money during my 20s, budgeting my money. I helped pay for college every year, but as a business owner, I thought I had to change myself. Even when I was making $29,000 a year, I had managed to save 5,000 of it. So that night, I slept on my friend's couch after that eviction, all covered in dog hair. I didn't know what to do or who to talk to, so I turned to Google to help me with the answers. I typed in eviction and success, and I found an article from a guy who didn't look like me talk about how he went fired, evicted, and became a millionaire by 27. While the insight seemed great, I was turning 30 in 3 months, and the thought of becoming a millionaire didn't seem like it was an option, unless I sold my organs and became a surrogate mom to a famous actress. I then typed up black women and eviction. I found several articles around eviction, and there were two memorable articles, and I'd like to share one with you right now. The first article was about how black women were evicted at much higher rates than most people. And I also found out how a local entrepreneur by the name of Ashley Fox, she talks about rising up from being evicted and reclaiming her space as a business owner. So for a wrinkle in financial time, I was slightly relieved. I had heard someone's experience with money that looked and sounded like me. As I sat there, angry and unsure of different possibilities, I started to ask the question, how can I change my narrative around my money and rebuild my future? I closed the business and I immediately got a job at working as a waitress, which was incredibly humbling. And I started going to therapy. I looked at my eviction and I started from the bottom, right back up. I admitted that I was a workaholic and that overworking affected my money and mental health. I had to see how my career affected all aspects of my life. On the wellness front, I forgave myself. I started practicing yoga and I started my mental health checks every week. I also did a lot of digging for my Southern ancestry, and I began to put this all into perspective. I started to see that a weekly check in was vital to my day, week, and year. I eventually created a financial wellness plan. Okay, so I'll make sure I post that in the show notes. I slowly started to forgive myself, and I even paid off all of my undergraduate loans. I started and finished my MBA, so I can always teach at a community college course. It's something to fall back on. I eventually became a financial wellness specialist. Now, keep in mind, this has started 2016, all of this, so it hasn't been that long. Now, let's dive into what is a financial wellness plan. A financial wellness plan involves the process of learning how to successfully manage your financial expenses. Because money plays a critical role in our lives and not having enough of it impacts our health as well as our academic performance. So in my mind, a financial wellness plan is a personalized guide to understand how your mind, body, and spirit affected your money. I think about how every aspect of your life is affected by your money. We forget how our habits, beliefs, ancestry, gender, societal circumstances create our habits consciously and unconsciously. From interviewing 40 women of color, it was clear that many of our ideas are still generated by ancestry. For some reason, most of us separate every category of our lives. I'm the main one that does this: health, wealth, relationship, career. And most of us exclude how money plays a role in our mental health and wellness. Think about it. If you have a late bill, what do you think about when you're at yoga? How you're late, your bill is late, and how it's ruining your life, and how you're a failure. Your downward dogs are sloppy, and you find yourself not paying attention to the teacher. This has happened to me multiple times. So that's why I brought that experience out. For some odd reason, we separate logic and creativity, finances and wellness. We see them as separate, but are they really? Trust me, I was that person too. I'm the queen of compartmentalizing habits, jobs, etc. Type A, recovering type A. I guess now I have to embrace that I'm a blur because I like to read. I don't really understand what that means, but I'm also dating. My partner is very into comics, and I've slowly gone over to that world. An ENTJ, Enneagram 3, whatever you want to call it, only to find myself repeating the same self-deprecating thoughts at work and at home. I felt as if I wasn't enough. I had to work on my emotional pillar. After working with two marvelous women, I realized that I had to create some new habits and forgive myself. I also had to partake in therapy and heal my ancestral wounds. I had to see how most of my habits were formed before I was an adult. Was the experience fun? No, it's still not fun. Okay? I'm looking at my bank account. Y'all, if you listen to my net worth, it's still very stressful. Okay? I got people calling me, telling me, just started calling me. All right? It's not fun. I owe people money still, and I'm avoiding some people still. I'm going to be real with you. But now I'm trying to stick to a 24/6 plan, meaning that I'm not going to work one day a week, and the rest I'm going to handle everything if I can handle it. But what I uncovered was astounding. I was able to uncover why I struggled with my finances when I became an entrepreneur. I used to be a saver, but I fell into the trap of the starving artist, which was my ancestral habit. You see, a lot of my family members are creatives. They would set up businesses and fashion lines only to give up when going gets tough. I, like my family, would buy a ticket and hopped on that manifestation train. I depleted all my savings. I even found myself evicted from my apartment 4 years later. 8 pillars of wellness. From that experience, I realized that you have to break up your pillars to understand, one, how it all becomes a holistic idea. There are 8 pillars of wellness. So that's like the first thing you should do when you're looking at your financial wellness system. There is the physical, the nutritional, the emotional, the social, the spiritual, the intellectual, the financial, and the environmental. And wellness is the most important aspect of all of our lives. When we are not well, everything else spirals out of control. So due to the brevity of this article, this podcast, I'm going to break down each one in a few words. Physical, sleep, how you feel and look. Nutritional, what you eat, how you treat your body. Emotional, feelings in all aspects of your life. Social, who you associate with. Spiritual, religion, spirituality, work environment, company culture. Intellectual, how you use your brain. Financial, how your money follows you in your everyday life. Environmental, where you work and play. You see, most of us don't see how our past, present, and future encompasses our entire wellness story. It is essential that looking at my money daily, weekly, and monthly, we should change our habits around money. Comforting, then restricting, which is why wellness is emphasized. From this experience, I had to ask the question, when I look at every aspect of my life, how does each wellness pillar story play into my life and my money? So let's dive into the simple steps. The first step, when you're looking at all your pillars, which you can also read this article as well, you have to set weekly uninterrupted time to figure out how every aspect of your life is connected to your money story. These uninterrupted times are called financial wellness dates. Financial wellness dates are setting up uninterrupted time to figure out how every aspect of your life is connected to your money story. All right? Now, it could be whatever you want it to be. It could be as short as 5 minutes or 5 hours. Do you want to change? Just get to the habit of setting up these dates. It's really beneficial to your mental health. And during the time where our mental health is often ignored in our works, our lives, our spirituality, our jobs, it's really important for you as an adult to constantly check in with yourself. And this is what the financial wellness plan is. Do you want to do a half marathon? How much is that going to actually cost? Do you really need a therapist? Are you going to use your insurance or not? These are things you have to think about when you're doing your financial wellness plan. Now, the simplest steps, and I've talked about this in what is the financial wellness plan, is just set it on your calendar and show up. You can start the habit super small. The first habit that you could do is put it in your calendar. Show up to the date. Once you're done with the date, you can set a timer or whatever you want to do. After you do that entire experience, or after you finish your date, you celebrate yourself in some way, shape, or form, and you don't beat yourself up on it. Period. That's it for the podcast. If you'd like to read more, take your Ancestry archetype quiz, find out about the benefits of the financial wellness plan, please let me know. If you have any questions, please email moneyandflowpodcast@gmail.com. If you just want to talk about anything, you can leave comments on the blog, which is moneyandflow.com/blog. You can also look at this article, which I posted on Medium as well. That's it. Take care.